Hello, hello. My name is Fabrice, and I'm here with Syllable, and I'm here to talk about Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse. And I recently watched that film, and I was blown away by the intricacies of that timeline and the storyline. And essentially, we start to discover that there is a new Spider-Man in town. And this Spider-Man is called Miles Morales, and he's half Puerto Rican and half African American. And it's pretty interesting to see a superhero that looks like me. And most of the times you don't get to see that. And I feel like a lot of people don't really understand what that means. Have said this 1,000 times, and you hear this from a lot of people. It's like, yeah, I grew up and I love these superheroes, but did not look like me. And I think there is something very meaningful when you see someone or a superhero that represents sort of your skin color. Yeah, that but that's just besides the point. But I think a lot of this was very great to explore a different timeline, the origin stories of Miles Morales. And a lot of the film, it starts as so his father is a police officer. And it really starts when you have Mr. Fisk, who's one of the villains in the Spider Marvel Cinematic Universe, is looking for his wife. But you don't find that out maybe halfway into the film. But essentially, he's looking for his wife and son. And in his physical universe, they died. They were in a horrible car accident. And I think he built this giant, massive machine collider that would access a different dimensional frequency. And his whole idea was to get back his wife and his kid into his physical universe. And I think that was very touching because a lot of the times you don't really you a lot of the times the villains are very one-sided and you don't necessarily understand their motivations, or at least from my perception. So I think that was another plus because you almost paint the villain automatically, oh, this person's evil, is bad. But once you start to understand Fisk's intention in the entire story, it makes it deeper. So yeah, so pretty much this machine, this collider, rips the time and space continuum, and essentially it starts to bring different types of Spider-Man. There's a Spider-Man from a film noir universe. There's a Spider-Man who's a cartoon in the shape of a pig. There's a Spider-Man that's more Japanese, who's a large robot and a spider in it. There's another Spider-Man that's a little bit heavier, kind of lazy. And there's a Spider-Woman as well that has a different timelines. Because I love what Marvel Cinematic Universe has been able to do because I personally believe in the multiverse. It's a quantum theory that a lot of scientists talk about how there are simultaneous universes that exist at the same time, at the same place as we are talking or you watching right now. There is another you. There's thousands of different yous, but with different pathways. So it's so powerful to be able to see that expressed in an animated short. But a lot of the film starts with Miles Morales and him discovering that he has superpowers, and he sort of goes to the same process of his dad who's a cop and he doesn't like Spider-Man, but the Spider-Man in his universe dies, and he's bitten by this spider that comes from another of the other world, and eventually he doesn't really understand how to best deal with it, so he connects a lot with his uncle who's been the brother of his father, and they have this sort of, Miles has like the really powerful connection with him. But essentially, once he starts to figure out that he, like the Spider-Man died and he starts to have these powers, he can't believe it. And he starts to uncover slowly and slowly at the center, there are these other Spider-Mans that have come to his universe. And then they start to try to figure out what is the mystery behind this large, massive collider that creates a lot of just problems in his universe. So this entire film is him discovering um, his potential, him discovering his powers. Like he can also camouflage, which is a pretty badass, a really interesting, awesome superpower. But he also gets the help of all these other Spider-Mans that starts to teach him how to do it. But he realizes that it's not for the glamour because there, I think one of my favorite parts is one of the Spider-Man was like, I think all of them were like one by one talking to him about what they've learned. And one of them was like, how are you going to be able to handle the moral ambiguity of saving a victim, but at the same time, your own sanity, your own emotions, and sort of you get to see the pressure of what it means to be a superhero and what it means to have this responsibility. Which I think at one point he says, "With great power comes great responsibility," and they're like, "Don't say that; it's oversaid." Um, but yeah, I think it was a pretty powerful film. And towards the end, you have this epic battle scene where all the Spider-Mans, they have one of them have the chip, and this chip is what's gonna be able to get everyone back into their universe because them all these other versions of the Spider-Man being in the physical universe that he's in, that Miles is in right now, is not good and it's not healthy, and they might die if they stay longer. And eventually they win, and the father is able to also the police. He's able to witness that. I think another touching moment in the film was his uncle, because that was a pretty shocking surprise that he was one of the bad guys who was working for Fisk, and Fisk ended up killing him because when they took off the mask, he realized that that was his nephew, and he couldn't do anything. But when he didn't follow Fisk's order, Fisk shot him. Yeah, I think the Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse is pretty compelling. I think it's compelling because it's animated, and it's also compelling because it's coming from a very diverse perspective, a diverse background. I think another thing I love about the movie was also whoever curated the music. I wish I had like written down in a note. I would give a shout out to you. The music director in that film is phenomenal. I think the integration of hip hop and rap and like the score of the different scenes was absolutely great. I think it was phenomenal. It really made me feel like this. What I was experiencing was contemporary because a lot of the times, like you have this massive score that is created from the film for films, and I think it's great. I think that's scores are one of my favorite things. Like I always listen to scores and I write fiction, and kind of puts me in the mood of this sort of cinematic drama, this epic drama. But I would say that especially the Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse and the way the music was curated, it really like hit it right into a very intimate space where it's like this is contemporary. This is the music that I listen to. This is something that I can resonate and relate. It made it more human. So I really appreciated that. Um, Overall, I think yeah, and Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse is a pretty epic journey, and there's gonna be two more films that are gonna come out from that short, and I can't wait to see what they do with it. I think the next one is called I let me see it. I think the next one is called the multiverse into the multiverse, the Spider-Man multiverse. Yeah, it says Spider-Man across the Spider-Verse Part 1 and then Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse Part 2. So the one is going to be released October 7th, 2022, and then the other one's going to be in 2023, and they're actually working on it right now. So it's pretty epic. I love it. And thank you for tuning in. I'm going to be doing a few specials on Spider-Man since the new Spider-Man got released this weekend. So I've been checking out all the different Spider-Mans from the different comics. You'll be seeing more about Spider-Man very soon. And thank you for tuning in. If you like what you heard, please like this video. Make sure to subscribe and share this and stay tuned. Let's nerd out together and keep talking in this conversation. So thank you.